what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal and crypto link in the info box below this video. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Travis, Sleeping Warrior, Eric, and Arwin. Good to have you all.
Good
Hello,
afternoon.
hello. What?
Yo,
Hello,
yo.
hello. And Ranty Flat Earth. Hello, Ranty.
How do?
Just got yourself an intro. Any signs of curvature?
Nope.
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety? Just for Ranty.
nope.
Hey, let him finish.
Sorry, I thought we got past that ranty thing now. Maybe not.
Earth
There's
variety
no
or
signs of
the
axial
tilty world?
rotation of the Earth-based kind, Nathan. No.
Right, just the tilty world.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Nope.
No.
Aberrations.
Let's just, on that gravity point, let's just remind people that Cavendish quantified the element of gravity as 50 million, 150 millionth of the object's mass. So I'm looking forward to the scientific experiment that manipulates that 150 millionth and doesn't go into the 250 millionth, because that then wouldn't be gravity. So the precision involved in that is fantastic. I'd love to see that.
But to be fair, Riley, on a galactic scale, that's a lot.
No, it's not. It's still a 50 millionth on Earth. Or no, I'd still like to see the scientific experiment that manipulates 150 millionth of the mass of the object in question.
Yeah, Owen, but try doing that from a shed, mate, because that's what they're believed to have been able to deduce.
Yeah,
From
from the
a
shed.
shed.
It's
So
comparable.
Is
It's
that one?
comparable to Dell in his shed doing something and claiming it as science, and you guys would never accept that, so neither do we.
So is that 150 millionth? Is that a universal standard? It's for everything, everywhere.
Yeah, that's what Thingy actually put in his paper, Cavendish. He said even the slightest bit of breeze or whatever would destroy the credibility of the experiment. I can read it if you'd like. Would you like me to read it exactly verbatim what he said?
Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
It's not
Yes,
my.
please.
It's not my show.
Yes, please.
No,
Yes.
just for your benefit, Travis, because I'm guessing you've not heard it.
Yeah, no, I will benefit from it, Tony. Thank you.
His actual paragraph reads, page 2 in his document. Oops. Come on. You know, isn't it amazing that when you want it to do something, it doesn't do it for you? Right, there we go. So this is what he actually wrote in his Cavendish experiment paper. He says, quote, as the force with which the balls are attracted by these weights is excessively minute, not more than 150 millionth of their weight, it is plain that a very minute disturbing force will be sufficient to destroy the success of the experiment. And from the experiment, and then it goes on. But basically, yeah, like I'd like to see them isolate all the other variables that influence a 50 millionth. And that's basically everything. So shout out to 50 millionth.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No.
Actually, much closer. I have anyway, yeah, no. But it's definitely local. Just looking at snow on my yard and the neighbors, which has different angular of attacks, and the snow is melted off. So yeah, the thing is billions and trillions and quadrillions of miles away for sure.
Really?
Do an experiment here.
you really think it's millions of miles away?
Millions of miles? No, highly doubtful. Virtually impossible.
93 million miles away. Don't forget.
Yeah, I love those zeros.
Right.
Balls, zeros, zeros, balls. Very strange obsession.
Right.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating multi-line core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Only in seismology.
Can I play devil's advocate?
No.
Sure.
If you like.
Can I fire bullets at you?
Volcanoes and lava. Yeah, we see
That's not
volcanoes.
proof that it's everywhere, though.
Okay.
It's just somewhere. There's lava.
What's not proof what?
Lava somewhere doesn't prove that it's down there everywhere.
I mean, coming from the center of the molten planet? Shucks. Okay.
I may come back to Dirt Popper and Paula's conversation that's going on about the tangent to the horizon, as that's pretty critical, so hopefully that'll come back up if I can remember. Any evidence that you can have a gas pressure without a container for all those people who live in space?
Absolutely not.
What about the gradient? What about the gradient?
Yeah, that's the what's the opposite of antecedent? The consequent. The gradient is the consequent. What's the necessary antecedent? Can't have that gas pressure in the first place without some element of control, because unless you've got some special way of defying the so-called second law of thermodynamics, hot goes to cold, pressure will always go to non-pressure. So unless you've got a way to get around that, no.
It's a gravity barrier, baby.
About the R value.
What R value?
Took the words right out of my mouth.
The
That's exactly what I was going to
mathematical
say.
Can't have an R value unless you can prove there's an R.
You can have an R value, but you can't assume it to be true unless you can confirm it.
You can't have an R value unless you can
You
prove
can't
R.
have an R unless you have a curve. Unless
Correct.
you have a ball.
Correct.
Not even just a curve. You need the whole ball to have the R.
Well, that's it. That's concluded our housekeeping. Thank you very much. So, Paula was pointing out that, well, I'll extrapolate out from her conversation because obviously you've only got so many characters in the chat, but basically in the curve calculator, they are always pointing the camera at the tangent point, at the horizon, which they say is the leading edge of the ball that you're trying to see past and is causing the obstruction. So that's quite critical because the calculator doesn't decide where you point your camera. You decide where you point your camera, but the calculator demands that you point it down, always, without exception. So just let that sink in for a second. A calculator's telling you, no, you might think you're pointing this camera up, like Ranty when he's dug a little hole and can only point the camera up. Now, sorry, my kid's very ill at the moment. She's got a really heavy cold, so she's going to be whinging a little bit. But yeah, even if you want to point your camera up, the calculator says no. No. You've got to point it down.
Nathan, did you get an umbrella?
I can't hear you very well. Armin Musk is squealing. Say that again.
I said, did you get an umbrella before Spanish class yesterday?
No, I did not.
Well, there you go.
So yeah, shout out to Paula, whose new title is Bible Explanator. So check out Paula's channel.
Oh, Paula who? Who's Paula?
She used to be called Knowledge Scavenger. Now she's called Bible Explanator, I believe is how she's now got a name.
I prefer knowledge scavenger.
Expositor. My apologies.
I prefer the previous. The four.
I said that to her. That's exactly what I said.
Right, so how many live viewers have we got? Because I want most people to see this. What are we on at the minute, Nathan?
156.
Oh, I'll wait a bit. get it up to near to like 180, 190. I'll wait a bit.
Please
So
share the show.
let's poke some bears. Rumpus, still no signs of this explanation for how you can have an inferior mirage on a curve that's supposed to be 700 feet behind the bulge, the curve. No signs of that. Sean Ufford, still no apology, no admission, no concessions, no acceptance of guilt. You couldn't find this hangout that you claimed that I was listening to. We all know it doesn't exist. Bottom line is you're another liar. And obviously we've got conspiracy cats, or Baldy Cats, I think he's called himself now.
Rumpus is not a bear. He's a chipmunk.
No, but I mean, these guys, it's got to the point where I actually think that they don't give a shit what they put out, so long as because Conspiracy Cats knows that he's gonna get at least 3, 4, 5, 6,000 views on that over the next month or so. You know, I think that he's actually got to the point where he doesn't care what is put out, so long as he gets the message across that blah blah blah, and it can be insert whatever suitable lie you want. It seems to be part of a bigger play, in my opinion. That so long as they get the message out to as many people, it doesn't matter what the message is, and it doesn't matter whether their maths is right or whether their evidence is right. So long as they get the message out that flat Earth isn't a thing, then that's their mission complete. And it's embarrassing. It really is. The truth has gone out the window with these guys.
Well, it's the same like teachers that Columbus discovered America and blah blah blah, and anybody with half a brain can figure out that there was people there, and that's nonsense. But that's what people like him do. Like you said, they just got to get the message out there that it sounds right.
Yeah.
Programming.
Yep, that's all it is. There's no truth in it. There's no integrity in it. Nothing. It's just marketing. It's about as true as these pharmaceutical ads that at the end, and they say may cause diarrhea, may cause anal bleeding, blah 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 blah. It's pretty much the level. He's an advertising.
Side effects are truthful. That's what it does.
Yeah. Well, nobody hears that the end part. They speak
First,
so.
you get a nice story of what it's supposed to be doing, and then you quickly, like little letters on a contract, get what it actually does to you.
They don't even do that. Geez, the pharmaceutical industry is more honest than this globe crap.
Yeah, you got
They don't
people
put any
like
disclaimers. Where's their disclaimers?
But they disclaim it in plain
because
sight.
people in
They
the
admit to
medical
it, and then they
industry-
say it's not a problem.
Because in the medical industry, you can get sued. So if you take the wrong thing and you have the wrong side effect occur, you can get sued. Nobody can sue for the globe. Or for
We need to
being
start
taught for the
suing him.
globe.
I feel nauseous. I have anal leakage from the ball religion. I'm suing. Class action lawsuit. Let's go, guys.
I wouldn't
Class
call. I wouldn't tell Rumpus that you've got anal leakage, because he'd class
It's
that
okay.
as lubricant and get
It's being
excited.
recorded. I'm fine. I can make a claim. Hey, we can profit off of it.
I've got to agree
Conspiracy
with
cats.
I've got to agree with Arwin. Arwin said that basically they will admit to whatever we expose and then just claim it isn't a problem. So
Yeah.
simultaneously, the people who are a bit more dumb will still cling to the fact that, for example, the perspective omitting, begging the question, proof of nothing curve calculator does include perspective. Some people still say that to me in the comments. In other words, they're on one side of the fence that's just outright denial. Well, in other words, they recognise the perspective's real, but therefore it must be in the calculator, right? No. And then there's the other side of the fence, like Wiggles and Rumpus, who go, well, no, there is no perspective in the calculator. There doesn't need to be. In other words, they accept that it's there, but like Arwin says, they just say, well, it's not a problem. All right, okay, bugger off then. Just believe this crap.
But that's exactly what the pharmaceutical industry does as well. It puts out this advertisement, then it gives you the actual effects, and it's perfectly all right. Ballers do the same thing. It's the same system. Just indoctrination.
All right, so we've got 184 watching now. I think now's probably a good time to slip this in.
Hey, before you do that, I want to give a shout out to OU Chris, who's been on the panel. Chris, he put together an awesome guitar lick for my channel, and I've been using it on the past couple of videos. So shout out to Chris. The music is fantastic. Thank you.
Your screen isn't sharing, by the way, Anthony.
Okay. Oh, it's not sharing. It says it is.
Oh, there we go. Now it is.
All right, so conspiracy flaps. slideshow from the. I'll leave it as. I'll leave it in here. Right. So his claim is that there was a trap. Now, there's two ways you can view this. Either one, it isn't a trap at all. You've just been caught red-handed and you've stuffed up and you're trying to deflect away from your mistake by claiming it's a trap. It's a common form of defense. It's distraction, or he's actually gaslighting. Now, I'm gonna claim that he's gaslighting. I'm not going to claim that he's distracting, although Nathan doesn't agree. Nathan will justify it afterwards. But I'm going to claim that he's actually gaslighting. And I'll just go through the basic facts.
Thanks very much. Sorry to interrupt. Thanks for the super chat, Andy.
So gaslighting, it's the manipulation by psychological means into doubting their own sanity, or in this case, into presenting something that wasn't presented, or established or agreed upon or whatever. In his own video, his actual video where he makes the claim that flat Earth is dead, he uses this side elevation profile. And we all know that when they do this, they're not reducing these heights at all, right? And that's the main objection. That is the reason why I dismissed this application of maths completely. And I went through my own set of maths, which is not my own set, but it's the correct maths for what we're doing, because we do know that perspective causes things to reduce over distance. Now, the ballers don't have this angular size reduction on their model at all, and they will distract at all costs because they want to do it like this. And I didn't accept this. I completely dismissed it, and I moved on to this to allow for perspective. Now, the conclusion of this perspective calculation was that it demonstrated that it should actually be the case that Mount St. Helens should appear in the picture bigger than Mount Rainier. However, in his original claim, he claims that Rainier should be, if the Earth was flat, bigger than Mount St. Helens, regardless of whether or not he's using the height, one height or the other. He's claiming by his pictorial depiction that that's the way it should be on a flat Earth. Now, that's a misrepresentation because that's not the way it should be on a flat Earth, but that was his claim. I demonstrated that they should be actually the opposite way around because angular size is a thing, perspective is a thing. I then challenged him to deal with the perspective and then apply the curvature to the perspective results. And I predicted that he wouldn't do it and that he would do something else completely. He would find some element of distraction. And what do you know? He did. Now, at the end of the day, the bottom line is that the angular size calculations confirm and support this picture to be consistent with them, right? Now, you can argue about it, but at the end of the day, that angular size calculator supports this. Now, that's not my interpretation. This is just the basic maths. Now, the problem is it's based on, if you look at the picture, you've got the observer at A, and you're looking right into the middle of the picture, and it's looking above and below, and basically it's based on a flat plane. It's based on flat geometry, right, or flat trigonometry. Now, in doing this basically, because this supports this picture, it proves that the Earth must be flat. Because whatever the values was, it was 1.5, I think it was, and 1.5 for Mount Rainier and 1.7 for Mount St. Helens. It means that because it's based on a flat plane, you can just imagine that 1.7 would be the angle, the top of the angle for the first mountain. 1.5 would be the top of the angle for the second mountain. But that proves that it's flat. But that's why I challenged him to demonstrate the perspective and then demonstrate the curvature and contrast between the two mountains and the two positions. And that's what he needed to do. However, when I saw his first response, I sent him a message saying, "What are you doing, you idiot? That's not what I said." And his response was, "Anthony, this is not the first trap I've set." Yes, it is. There is no trap. There is no trap here. Completely no trap whatsoever. This will run for a while. No, it won't. But I had to get somebody to validate my maths, which he did. No, I didn't. Let me remind folk. He claims that on a flat plane, this is what we should see. And his maths was based on, whether it was based on the higher mountain or the lower mountain part, it doesn't matter. None of this maths was validated because it was contrasted with this maths. So I showed that the picture was consistent with the angular size. That's what I actually showed, and I dismissed this completely. However, he's now saying that I had to validate his numbers. I didn't validate your numbers, Conspiracy Cats. I'd contrasted your numbers and stated that all of your maths were wrong. So why are you now telling people that I validated your numbers? I didn't. Your numbers are wrong because you've applied the wrong set of maths. You haven't taken into account perspective. And regardless of whether or not you hoped it would be Nathan, Nathan's not going to respond to you. And I'm surprised. Do you know what? This is nonsense. This is complete and utter distraction. You've been caught red-handed, but now you're doubling down like Miles the Liar Davis does. Rather than admit that you've been caught, you're doubling down. Now, let's just see what happens. So I said, your maths was totally rejected. Why are you mincing what I did and said? You need to show the effects of perspective and show the effects of curvature. Mount Rainier is basically gone behind the cumulative curvature because of perspective. It's reducing its apparent size. You aren't being intellectually honest. Now, we all know that the mountain, I'll pull up this picture quickly, that one. We all know that this is what is this is what should be represented in the maths when these guys are doing their calculations. We should see Mount Rainier getting smaller, but also dropping behind the curve. It's like this says, it's a double effect. It should be curvature drop as well as angular size reduction. And that's not what he's doing. But look what he's telling people. He's telling people that I'm somehow supporting his numbers, and I'm not. I'm contrasting, and I'm saying that you've got this completely and utterly wrong. Anyway, he's not being intellectually honest. So his next response was, I did the maths and agreed with him. No, I didn't. I contrasted your maths, and I did not agree with you. Why are you telling people that that's the opposite? When I thought I was talking about the full height of the mountain. Doesn't matter what I thought you were talking about. Your maths was completely rejected because you hadn't dealt with perspective. So I applied perspective, and then I showed that you can, whatever amount of curvature, you can apply it any way you want. But when you apply perspective, it supported the picture, therefore proving that the Earth has to be flat, unless you can demonstrate the effects of curvature and perspective together. And you didn't. You did something completely altogether different. But again, why are you telling people that when I thought you were talking about the full height of the mountain? Well, we dealt with that in the first 3 minutes of Ranty's video, and your maths was dismissed on that basis anyway. So it doesn't make any difference what you think that I was referring to or what you think I thought you of. I did all my own maths on it anyway, so I didn't. And my maths and your maths did not agree at all. Yours was dismissed because it was wrong.
Hey, Larry.
You also agreed it includes perspective. No, I did not agree that it includes perspective. I dismissed your maths on the basis that that is orthographic and it did not include perspective. And that is the application of perspective, conspiracy cats. So I don't know why you're doing this. I did not agree that it was perspective. And I did not agree that the maths agreed with you. I contrasted that. You are literally lying. I don't know what he's thinking with these comments, but he's either gaslighting me by pretending that I've agreed to something that I've not, or he's full on lying, and you can interpret it whichever way you want. If you actually think that I was agreeing with him and I was supporting his maths, you are stupid. And please don't come back to this hangout again. You're too stupid to be a ball earther. That includes you, Sean. Anyway, so where's the missing 877 meters of Rainier above the peak of St. Helens? Flat Earth is dead in the sea. Well, my response to that is simple. You were talking about the full height. You did say it 3 times. Even if you were not, you still can't prove your elevation. And that's conceding that if he did have his elevation details, there is a conversation there, but he hasn't got that elevation details for where he claims the picture was taken. So there's no conversation at this point because it's like Miles the Liar Davis. We can't prove where the picture was taken from. And basically it's an invalid claim until he does. Anyway. This missing 877 meters, that's like 816.24. It's like 2,600 feet. This missing 877 meters is because you've not addressed perspective. If you do account for perspective, that's where your claim of size has gone. In reality, it isn't missing. It's only missing because you can't perspective. If you actually pay attention to the angular size maths I did, it matches the photo perfectly when you use the highest points of both mountains against each other. You need to explain why the angular size maths that I used is wrong. So we'll go back just to recite. This is what he claims it should be. This is a misrepresentation and was dismissed mathematically because the maths that he applied is wrong. I substituted his maths for this maths because this is perspective and it matches this photo. One of them is 1.7, the other one's 1.5 degrees. And I'm happy with that because it's simple. It's not even complicated, convoluted. It's just literally how big should that be at that distance. But what Conspiracy Cats is desperate to obfuscate at all costs is when this Mount St. Helens stops moving because it's got to its distance. Mount Rainier carries on getting smaller and smaller and smaller because it's getting further and further away. Look at the distance in miles, 53 miles. At 53 miles, this mountain stops getting smaller. At 104 miles, this mountain then stops getting smaller. So it's the relationship between the two things, and he has to obfuscate that to death. So the question remains, or the question comes, do you accept that he'd laid some kind of trap and I'd fallen into it? Or do you agree that I showed that his maths was wrong, rejected his maths, applied perspective, and then asked him to address perspective and curvature? And then somehow he's now gaslighting me, telling me that I supported his maths, and I also agreed it includes perspective and all this nonsense. This is complete and utter nonsense. So this guy's gone from being a guy that I originally thought was being like, you know, genuine, sincere, affable, trying to get into the conversation and trying to find the truth. He's gone from being that guy that I gave some element of, an element of 50-50 with, to an absolute, total and utter dishonest guy that's totally telling people the wrong things. He's telling people the wrong maths. He's ignoring the correct maths. He's misrepresenting the maths that's presented, saying that it supports his maths that includes perspective, and it was dismissing his maths because it didn't include perspective. What's he doing? Is he lying? Is he just stupid? Or is he obfuscating at all costs because he's here deliberately to make the conversation muddy?
He's the latest in a very long line of dishonest pricks. The sooner you understand that, the better.
He is dishonest, and I'm going to tell it to your face. If I ever speak to you again, Baldy Cats, I'm going to tell you to your face that you are dishonestly telling people lies, because these are false statements of fact. The maths did not agree with you. Your maths did not include perspective, and I used alternative maths because you didn't use the correct maths. And why are you telling people that the maths that I did agreed with you, and that it included perspective? You're completely off your head. I don't know whether you're stupid or whether you're being just dishonest, because you have to obfuscate this point at all costs. But let's be clear. The perspective maths support this picture completely. One mountain was 1.5 degrees. The other one was 1.7, I think it was. And it was supporting 1.5 for that one. I'll have to look carefully. 1.5 and I think it was 1.69. So 1.7 and 1.5. But the point is, this completely supports this picture. So why are you telling people the opposite position and trying to pass it off as though in some way that my work supported yours? It didn't. So if you think that there was a trap there, then you're going to believe anything that dumb ballers tell you. And that means you, Sean Hufford, because you obviously believe that it was a trap. But I don't understand how you possibly can. This is complete and utter nonsense. And you should be ashamed, you ballers, because Conspiracy Cats is being dishonest. And I can't understand what angle he's coming at. Is he stupid? Is he obfuscating at all costs? Or is he literally just lying because he has to lie? Because this proves that the Earth cannot be a sphere, because that Mount Rainier at the background is double the distance away, has to shrink according to perspective, but then it's got to drop behind the curve. And the ballers can't basically, we've got to obfuscate this to death, and it's embarrassing. Right, I'm done.
Hey, I stepped away, so I don't know if anybody said this, but I was thinking about it earlier when you first started your presentation, Tony. And that is that if you turned his orthographic view, if you turned it 90 degrees so that you're looking at it straight on,
yeah,
what would it look like?
Well, his orthographic view, he would put Mount Rainier would be, instead of being behind this and lower, it would be up here somewhere, maybe up there somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, just think about turning it 90 degrees. You would have something that you would never see in real life. You wouldn't see that. That's not what you see. But that's what you would have to see if you take his orthographic view and say this is what you see at the side angle, and if you turned it 90 degrees, you would then have to see Mount Rainier higher than Mount St. Helens, which you don't. You can't. It doesn't match reality.
Correct. So my view is that he's trying to gaslight me. He's trying to make me feel as though I'm going crazy. Nah, it's not happening. I'm not stupid. I understand what's going on here. You're playing silly buggers. Nathan doesn't necessarily agree. What do you view, Nathan?
Well, I don't know. I think he's looking at what the calculator tells him and believing it. So when he says that the bigger mountain in the background should be bigger, he doesn't realise that in making that statement he's ignoring perspective. Yeah,
that's my point. But is he gaslighting?
He's doing it deliberately.
What's going on with him? Is he being dishonest? Is he just mistaken, or is he obfuscating it at all costs?
Brainwashed. Can't accept that the orthographic. The amount of times we've talked about the fact that if you put it in side view, your feet and inches value rule, and they're absolute sizes, and you don't see in absolute sizes. You see in angular sizes. You see angular relationships between things as they get further from you. That's how we see. So to put it in a side elevation, suddenly we've got the side of our own head. Now, in his world, that's correct. So he thinks that's correct. And he's turning a blind eye to where we point out that it's not correct, and trying to square that circle as he argues with you, whilst I also simultaneously think he's just cocked up, made a mistake, and would rather double down and claim it's a trap. In other words, he's going to piss right in the faces of every single person who thought it was just a good example. Well, no, it was laden with apparently a deliberate error. So if you thought that was a good example, Conspiracy Cats fans, then you're just stupid, because it was actually a trap laid for me. So it wasn't for you, it was actually for me. I didn't fall in it, whatever that trap may be, but you all thought it was a great video, right? No, it was actually just for me. So, yeah, if you thought it was good, no, he was just pissing in your faces so he could get to me. So feel proud if you're a Conspiracy Cats fan that he's not making videos for you, the audience. He's making traps for me. That's what he's doing, according to him. Well, I'm sure he's very proud of that little shitty explanation that he's given for a mistake he's made. He'll never live it down.
The thing that bugs me though is that he's not got the same standard that you can apply to the likes of Dawn, Treader, or Sly Sparkane. These people are just normal Joe public, as far as I can tell. And I'm not saying that they're not agents; they might be. But what I am saying is that this guy holds himself in a position and is employed to do a different job. But he's a teacher. That raises the bar. And if he's going to completely misrepresent the opposing set of maths and the dismissal of his maths and somehow claim that it's supporting his maths and that I validated his maths, he either doesn't understand it and shouldn't be a teacher, or he does understand it and he's deliberately obfuscating. I don't think that we should give him the benefit of the doubt for lacking the honesty, the dishonesty element, because he's above that. He's not stupid. For me, it has to be one or the other. He's either obfuscating intentionally, or he's just literally lying and he's been caught out and he doesn't want to back down because he's doing what GeoStreamer and Sean Huffer did, like fight it till the bitter end. And it's like, this is not what he should be doing if he's a decent guy.
Well, he has an audience now to look after, so his audience demand a certain level of content from him, and that content has to always support the ball. So if you ever think that he's ever going to release anything that could be contrary to that belief, then, like I say, you're just stupid if you're going to believe that. If you actually think that he's going to release anything that he can't twist to make it look like a ball and try and make you look like an idiot, then, you're not going to get very far with him. I'm sorry. Because that's just what he's going to do.
Hey, Mark. No sound, amigo.
You might be just best to concentrate on your own work, Anthony, instead of engaging with these, because if you've learnt nothing after 2.5 years of interactions with the likes of Sly Sparkane, then you're not going to learn very quick. I've only been in it 18 months, 2 years, and I've already learned to dismiss this guy already. I know the same with Simon Dan. It's going to be exactly the same. They're not interested in the truth. They're interested in a narrative. They're interested in what their audience are interested in.
Well, the problem is I'm talking to Nathan's audience here about flat Earth relevant topics, right? And I realise that these are not his fans, and to be honest, his fans are drongos. But at least Nathan's audience are genuinely interested in the debate, because otherwise they wouldn't be here. But what bothers me is that he's telling his audience lies, and it's like, this is not accidental mistake. This has gone beyond that. He knows that the maths that I presented did not support his position. He knows that I dismissed his maths and applied angular size instead, because that's the way it should be. But he's telling his audience that somehow I've made a mistake. And I'm thinking, this guy's lying. It's like, this is disgusting. So, Laurie, have you found out the circumference of the Earth yet?
No sound, Laurie. I don't know if your mic's not working. We lost the panel or something.
No, just waiting for Laurie to respond.
Anthony, you know, if you was going to be a solicitor at one point, yeah?
Right.
So if what sort of soliciting were you going to go into? Were you going to sort of like be a defense barrister or something like that? Or were you going to be a prosecutor?
If I was going to do it, I would have been on the civil side, not criminal. Although I enjoyed criminal law, the civil side is where I was interested in.
Okay, well, if you was employed by, let's supposing you were going to go down the criminal side or whatever, and you were employed by somebody to represent a paedophile or something, and you knew he was guilty, but you would still go and defend him and tell lies to people to try and convince them that you were right, he was innocent, everything that had been thrown against, all the accusations against him were wrong. This is exactly the same as the ballers.
Yeah, but that's not what happens in law, though. This is like when you watch The Bill and someone says that's not how it happens in real world.
All right, I'm just making it right. Okay, well, what I'm trying to do is just give you an allegory, essentially. You know, it doesn't have to be taken literally, but it is just the point, proving the point. If you've got a friend that's always paying you compliments, you're going to spend more time with them. Yeah. If you've got someone that's always against you and saying nasty things to you, you don't want to know them. So if your audience laps up good stuff that sort of helps you believe in the ball again, of course you're going to support them. You're going to put more content out for them, and this is the whole point. They're not interested in the truth. They couldn't care less.
You did it with that cartoon, Anthony, when there was a queue of people going for a reassuring lie, whereas the awkward truth has only got one person in the queue for it.
No, it had nobody in the queue for it.
Oh, nobody. Everyone wants the reassuring lie. So if Conspiracy Cat's a teacher says it does include perspective, then they go, hooray! Life can go on as normal.
Exactly, Nathan. Exactly. Whereas like the people here, we're in for the debate. We've got opposing views from here, there, and everywhere, and we try to weigh them up. You're never going to get that from these guys. They're never going to be, impartial.
Yeah.
But it comes to something where, rather than going through how the deception's been perpetrated, i.e. looking at how perspective is excluded, now we've got to actually dig through and figure out where they're laying deliberate traps and putting intentional errors in. Nah, fuck that. Excuse my language, but if you see this as a game, I'm not interested in dealing with you. I gave up on Conspiracy Cats ages ago for that very reason. You see this as a game, I don't. Hey, Alan.
Good morning, Nathan. Good morning, boys.
Good morning, Alan. So do you think Conspiracy Cat set a trap, or do you think that he's just wrong?
I think you just did the maths wrong, Tony.
You think that I did the maths wrong?
Yeah.
But that's not what I asked. I asked, do you think that he laid a trap, or do you think that he was wrong?
I think he trapped you, yeah. I think he got you. He got you pretty good, didn't he?
Do you not understand how perspective works, Alan?
I do, yes.
So you acknowledge that Mount Rainier will get smaller once Mount St. Helens stops?
I've not seen the picture.
Why was it that he didn't put that in his maths, if that happens in the real world?
I don't think you understand how perspective works.
There's no point in this conversation continuing. Sorry,
Alan.
Anthony, there's no point in this conversation continuing. So what Alan's done is he said he hasn't seen the picture, but he thinks it's a trap. So you know nothing about it, but you're going to side with the guy, surprisingly, that asserts it's a globe, even though you've not seen it.
I saw the reply video in which he explained things, and I saw Ruif's video. I haven't actually caught up with the original video yet. I will do, though. I promise.
Yeah, so when he asked the original question, do you think it's a trap, right? That was the question, which there's no point in having the conversation with you. You don't know. You haven't even seen it.
I saw the reply.
Yeah, we've gone over this. This will be the second time, right?
Okay, don't get angry.
Just disappointing, Alan, that you spent a lot of time on this show and you still don't seem to understand that conspiracy cats is blatantly pissing in your face and you can't see it, or just refuse to accept it. Disappointing, Alan.
That's what I'm here for, Tony, to disappoint you.
Now you're here to obfuscate the truth, aren't you, Alan? Really?
Not really. You haven't got anything, have you? You've not got a map. You've not got.
Listen, have Alan do the
any
math for you. You said you did it
You've got
wrong.
nothing. Just a couple
Do
of
the math, Alan.
and painters and decorators.
Is there such a thing as scientists, Alan? Is there such a thing as lawyers, or are people?
Yes, of course there is.
Yeah, that's a modern invention. Thank you very much. Bullshit.
Well, they're defined by their role.
People, no, they're not. Well, nice society you live in there, mate. That's not reality.
Well,
Nature. That's not the nature of how things really work, Alan.
thing is, consensus suggests that you're
You
wrong.
can put labels. You can just call him a pope. Go ahead. It doesn't mean jack shit. Not impressed.
No,
Not impressed.
consensus suggests
Not
you're wrong.
impressed. Not impressed.
Well, I don't need
Consensus is not reality, Alan.
Sorry, buddy.
Better than that.
consensus.
Sorry you haven't manned up in your life and figured it out, but
Consensus exists.
in your slave
But it
time.
doesn't define reality, though.
Fallacy.
What does that mean?
Unfortunately,
that
unfortunately, it does, Owen.
You're not going to win.
Sorry, that's a
We're talking
fallacy.
about reality here,
So,
Alan. You're
sorry.
talking about a religion. You're not
Hold
going
on,
to win.
Eric. Sorry. So, hold on 1 second. So, are you literally going to say that because you're going to appeal to consensus, which is the definition of a logical fallacy, appeal to consensus fallacy?
You believe consensus is a fallacy.
No, an appeal to consensus in lieu of proof of what you claim is a fallacy. Yes, Alan.
No, it's not. Consensus
Oh,
exists.
really? Well, type in appeal to consensus and see what you get.
Consensus exists. I'm
No,
sorry.
I don't dispute that
Maybe-
consensus exists. Listen, I'll say it slightly slower. Because Alan is a globetard, which means that I will need to explain this 5 times. He still won't concede that he's wrong. He still won't concede that it is a logical fallacy. He'll assert with a hand-wave dismissal that it's not. Right, Alan. An appeal
Well,
to
but-
consensus in lieu of evidence is a logical fallacy. Now, I don't care
People like Alan
if you
would have
like
been
that.
okay with
Oh,
abject
my bad.
slavery.
Eric was obviously making my point. Sorry, I'll just go on mute.
Sorry. So, Alan, appeal to consensus. You would have been okay with abject slavery, right? Because, it was normal.
No, it wasn't.
Yes.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, but back in the day, you would have been on the side of slavery, and you know it.
Are
Oh,
you circumcised, Alan? Are you circumcised?
what?
Are you circumcised?
Why are you asking me that?
It's a simple enough question with a yes or no answer. Are you circumcised
You
or not?
weirdo.
Well, we're talking about consensus, aren't we? Whether or not we chop the ends of our dicks off because lots of people do it, that would be a consensus, wouldn't it, Alan? So my point is pertinent. But you laugh about it. I was about to detail consensus opinion about circumcision.
Bingo.
So weird.
Oh, really? Well, if we
Why is
all
it so
just
hard to
bow
answer?
down to
Reality is
consensus,
weird.
we all have the ends of our dicks chopped off, Alan. But you're okay with that because consensus is real, and you think this is amusing, don't you, Alan? My point that absolutely takes a dump on appealing to consensus would lead you to chopping the end of your own dick off. Having had it not done already, which we don't know because you haven't divulged that.
There's a difference between consensus and being a lemming.
Oh, really?
Not in this topic.
There is.
Oh,
No, there's
really?
not. You're the lemming.
There is.
It's a logical fallacy. So is this going to be the 3rd time I point out that it's a logical fallacy? Or are you going to say, oh, I understand now. Where I thought that appealing to everyone's opinion meant something, it doesn't. It doesn't prove anything.
I'm not
We're not
appealing.
making up these words. These are official dictionary definitions.
I'm not appealing to it. I'm just saying it
Yeah,
exists.
you are.
I'm saying it.
Literally, you
Hold
give.
on, that's
come
fair
on.
enough.
Don't try
That's
to back
lovely, Alan.
out.
That's
It
lovely.
exists.
Hold on. Alan's just pointing out that something exists. Tables, Alan. Tables. Tables, Alan. Come on, there's got to be a dramatic response. I'm just pointing out that tables exist.
Chairs too.
Right. We can point out things
Right.
exist. This isn't what's my item. Right, Alan? So unless you had a point for saying that, well, consensus is real, well, that's lovely. So are a lot of things, Alan. Unless it has a point attached, presumably that you should appeal to it and believe what the consensus thinks, then you have no place here saying random things about stuff that exists. Who cares?
Very zen.
Do you have a religion, Alan?
No,
Do you know how many people in the world have a religion?
don't care.
Well, the consensus would be that the more people have a religion than don't. So why don't you?
Well, he's smarter than the old world. You know, he found science. He's better than the Abrahamic. That's what, you know. Poor Alan. Poor Alan bought another religion.
No, but equally, Eric, you go around calling people slaves, so you have the high moral.
Right. I'm a slave too.
Sure, but
Yeah, we're all enslaved by this.
I don't actually think I'm better than anybody else.
No, you just think your belief system is better.
No, I just disagree. I don't have a belief system.
But you believe you live on a ball.
Oh, really? What's your evidence for R?
I have evidence for a ball.
No, what's your evidence of R? You
What's
said I
your
don't have a
evidence that
belief
there
system.
isn't R? Where's your map?
Excuse me.
Where's
You
the
just,
dome?
Eric, why is it that I start grilling him and you carry on talking?
Sorry,
Eric,
I'm in the mood today.
please keep.
I'll let go. Hold on.
That's why I don't let him.
You said you
show
don't
him.
have a belief. I say, bollocks. Where's your proof of R?
Where's your proof that it doesn't?
Don't ask me a question. Last time, then I kick you off.
can ask you anything I wish.
No, this isn't going to be 5 times. I'm not doing that anymore. I'll ask you again. You either answer me or I kick you out. Simple. You've just claimed. That's what I'm dealing with. Your claim that you don't have a belief. Wrong. You'll either concede it or I'll kick you out for being a twat. So, Alan, if
me
you
out
don't
if
have
you
a...
haven't finished,
You're
Mom.
talking now, are you? I haven't finished. You arrogant
out
twat
if you
with a
haven't
religious
finished,
belief
Mom.
that can't help obfuscating.
Yeah, your mong.
Right, Alan. So, you do have a belief.
Yeah, your mong.
So you're going to
Alan,
talk all over me
shut
rather
up
than be
or-
humiliated
shut
about your
Shut up
religious
or I'll
belief?
kick you.
Yeah,
Do you want me to
you'd rather be kicked out than be humiliated. No, Alan. I'm going to point it out until you accept it. You do have a belief in R. So either present your belief or accept that you don't have any evidence for it. Oh, is he gone? I'd rather drop himself, would he? Than concede that he has a belief where he has stated he has not. What a coward.
Let me just pick him up on when he said there's a difference between. What did he say? It was there's a difference between being a lemming and what?
Said
Consensus.
that rather than being
Consensus,
consensus opinion, it's not.
Right.
It's being a
No,
lemming.
sorry, that was me accidentally.
Hang on, stop. So
I
Alan,
wanted to click cancel, but I clicked the wrong one. Sorry.
shut up. Alan said that he admitted that he hadn't seen the picture and the response that we had and the back and forth. He hadn't seen the picture. He didn't know about the topic, but he just accepted that it was a trap, but then couldn't qualify it when challenged. So is that being a consensus-driven thing, or is it being a lemming? And I'm going to say it's a lemming. 'Cause he'll
Absolute
just accept
lemming.
Anything he's told.
Lemming. Yeah.
Yeah, lemming.
I think weasel is more appropriate.
Dishonest.
Yeah. Basically rumpuses the hell out of me after he makes a false statement. I don't have any beliefs. Oh, right, what's your proof in R? Where's your map? Oh, right, wanker. That's the behaviour of a wanker. That's you, Alan. A wanker. So when you make a claim and I pick up on your false claim, you rumpus me. Talk all over me. Claim that I need to suddenly prove something to you. No, just wrong, Alan. You're a religious zealot with a belief in R. That's why you didn't give me proof of it. You asked me to prove something. Like a wanker. That's what you are, Alan. A wanker. Everyone in the audience knows it. Everyone on the panel knows it. You're the same as Rumpus and Wiggles and all the other wankers who, when we destroy your point, the only thing you can do is rumpus. Or ask me a question, like Tim Osman yesterday. How's this work on a flat earth? Very original. Yeah? When I point out that he claims the picture's geometry, like Rumpus does. No, it's not. That's where the lie comes. But being an obfuscating wanker, you don't want to hear it. You'd rather rumpus, the bit that destroys your religious belief, Alan. Belief. So you think you've got no beliefs? Well, then you're a deluded muppet, aren't you, Alan B? You think you've got no beliefs? I absolutely assure you do. It doesn't matter how many times you try and talk over me, I'll point out that you have a belief. In R you trust, you religious zealot.
Let me just remind
And he believes consensus is reality. He literally said that, and then he pretended like he didn't say that.
let me just remind people that these guys have to obfuscate this point at all costs. They do not want people being told that perspective is being hijacked, and they can't allow for perspective because it destroys it. Like I've said numerous times, anything above like 25, 30 miles away, and in this case it was like 100 and whatever kilometers it was, anything that gets to that kind of distance, you need mountains, right, to be able to argue anything, right? And that, I mean, even with mountains like they found, you can demonstrate that there's no drop there, there's no curve, because angular size answers everything. If you're going to compare two mountains in the distance, you just get the angular size of one, the angular size of the other, see which one should appear bigger and which one should appear smaller, and then drop the one behind into the curve. And then all of a sudden you can't see the one behind anymore. That's the trick. That's what they've got to obfuscate at all costs. That's why Conspiracy Cats is doing what he's doing. So don't lose sight of the inner bickering within the topic. It's like where Nathan says, don't beg the question, just kill it at the start. And I tend to lean towards begging the question so we can pull it apart. Well, this is one of those things. If you beg the question and you get into the discussion, the debate, then it means that the original point gets obfuscated. And the point is they've hijacked perspective. They don't account for perspective. They don't account for things getting smaller as they go further into the distance. But the minute they have to do that, which is what I demonstrated with Conspiracy Cats, Mount Rainier then drops into the curve and it can't be seen. And that's the point. They've got to obfuscate it. That's why he's claimed that this is a trap. It's not a trap. They just can't address perspective ever.
So how is perspective actually being hijacked?
Shut up, you idiot. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Of course I do.
No,
how is perspective being hijacked?
Would you like an answer?
Why we're not a tape recorder for you, okay?
No problem. Do you want an explanation, Larry, just for you?
Just explained it clearly.
So, Larry, as something gets further away from you, the angular size reduces. What you do in the curve calculator is put the viewer into the actual picture that you're analysing, and then as you move something nearer or further away from the viewer, it remains the same actual size. So the sizes that you use in the calculator are feet and inches, and that doesn't account for the fact that as that thing gets further away, the angular size decreases. That's ignored. That is how they have hijacked perspective in the calculator.
That's actually incorrect. And here's why. If you take the observer and draw lines to an object first closer away, and then move the same object further away, draw the same lines, the angle between those lines gets smaller if the object is farther away. That means that perspective is conserved in that view.
Sorry.
It doesn't matter.
No.
Sorry,
No,
the
it's not.
calculator...
That's only the direction.
Look,
That's not
look,
the
bear with me,
angular
Arwin.
size.
Sorry, Arwin. The
That
picture...
means the angle changes, so the angle is conserved.
Yes, when you draw
Only
that...
the direction.
Oh, for the love of God, Arwin! Right, Larry,
Exactly.
that is not what you are calculating. In your calculator, you calculate the feet and inches size, not the angular size. So yes, when you draw two lines to something and measure to the top and bottom of it and then measure that angle in a perspective view, you would get the angular size. That is not what your calculator does. It takes the actual size in feet and inches, not the angular size. You are mistaken, Larry.
So what's the actual problem? Like if the angular size changes, then perspective is conserved though. So I'm not sure what your argument is.
I'll say it a third time. Let's see if the panel will let me. Third time. The size does change. As it gets further away, your calculator ignores that fact by using the feet and inches value that does not change. Therefore,
God damn it.
exclude...
This argument
Oh,
is
right,
actually
Larry.
so
I was nearly there. 3 times you've denied it. Now you can't shut your pie hole. I'm saying it nice and slow for you, Larry, who can't seem to understand that whole numbers do not reduce with distance. Angular size does. Whole numbers does not. Whole numbers are what you use in the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator, because the fact remains that they do reduce in angular size, and that reduction is called curvature, not perspective inclusive but called curve.
So basically, what you're saying is we need to change how geometry works and how we calculate triangles because perspective. Do you not understand that geometry works and we calculate those things using geometry? And what your argument would have us rewrite how geometry and trigonometry actually works. And that doesn't work because mathematics actually works, like as it is.
Sorry, can I ask a question, Nathan?
If we follow your logic, then we destroy whole of mathematics.
No,
that doesn't make sense.
Okay, let me try and enlighten you. What you do, Larry, is
well, you can try, but
oh right, you're still talking, are you, Larry? You said it doesn't make sense. Now shut the fuck up. Right, it does make sense. You assume a radius value, and then you remove the effect of things getting smaller into the distance by using hole sizes and call that curve. The fact that you claim that geometry works is because you have substituted curve for angular size reduction at distance. So it makes no sense if you believe, as you do, that you live on a sphere, because in your world you shouldn't need perspective, because your maths doesn't have it.
Okay, let's assume that what you're saying works. Let's then try to calculate the distances to different objects and the hypotenuses and whatever you have. What you will find out is your mathematics sucks and it doesn't work in practice because you're breaking the rules of mathematics to get to your point.
What are you talking about?
Did you test any of these in practice?
Maybe you don't understand. Sorry, Larry, bear with me. We're not calculating.
I'm bearing with you, but you're not bearing with me.
Okay, well, let's just try. We're not calculating anything. You use a begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking calculator to assert that the Earth is a sphere. So telling me that I'm not doing the calculations wrong when we're picking apart your calculator is kind of a bit silly.
Why are you not calculating anything?
Because I can just look at it. Do you want an answer? Because I can just look at it. I don't need a begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator to assert what should or should not be seen. That would be a reification fallacy.
So you just assume it's flat then? That would
No.
be assuming...
No. When you...
Well...
sorry, again, you've made a statement, now I'm addressing it. So shut your pie hole and I'll address your statement. No, I don't assume that it's flat. Our calculations, when we measure the distance from me to an object, are the same as yours. The only difference is you, not me, insert R and remove perspective. Other than that, I can run a tape measure from A to B, and so can you. The only difference being the R value that you, not me, presupposes. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you hated the show, then you know exactly what to do. You can smash that dislike button, but then smash it again. But if you like the show, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you've not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!